3 years, George Bush is visiting Cincinnati, but this time he's coming as the President of the United States.
Now, Air Force One has just landed at Greater Cincinnati Airport. And in fact, we have live pictures of the presidential jet at the airport. As you can see, the ladder is already down, and we are awaiting the President of the United States to step out there. You see him, George Bush, waving to the crowd. This is at Greater Cincinnati Airport. As President Bush prepares for almost a 4-hour stay here in Cincinnati, he'll be taking a helicopter trip on Marine One from his location now at Cincinnati Airport all the way out to Union Terminal. From Union Terminal, he'll be motorcading out to Taft High School. You see him speaking to several people there. Among that group, mainly Republicans, you can see at the very top of the screen there, former City Councilman Ken Blackwell, who is now under Jack Kemp at the Housing and Urban Development Department. Congressman Tom Lukin is there also, as well as several other Republican, mainly dignitaries. Now, he's planning to stay here for about 5 minutes, meeting and greeting other people before he prepares to board Marine One for his trip out to Union Terminal and then on to Taft High School. Now, his trip here is supposed to be have several purposes, among them promoting education and also promoting what he calls the 4 C's of his legislative plan, which includes capital gains tax cuts, child care tax cuts as well as crime. Here's the graphic you have here for his full itinerary today. At 12:30 p.m., he arrives at Taft High School. There he's going to be talking with the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative and students. Then at 12:15, he goes to the Hyatt Regency Hotel here in downtown, speak to a Chamber of Commerce luncheon. That's where we'll hear parts of his legislative agenda. Of course, at 2:40, the Chamber of Commerce speech will begin. And then at 3:45, President Bush heads back to Cincinnati International Airport to board Air Force One and then return to the city of Washington. As you can see, he's getting ready to board Marine One now. These are live pictures from Cincinnati International Airport, where Bush arrived just a few moments ago.
He's waving at the press. There was Bill Gradison and Tom Lukin with him. And he's heading for Marine One, and he'll be on his way to Union Terminal.
Okay, and naturally, we'll have crews all over the city covering President Bush, and as more information and pictures become available, we'll continue our coverage of President Bush's visit to Cincinnati.
Some other news to tell you about. Word just into our newsroom. There's been another Navy jet crash, this time into a crowded suburb of Philadelphia.
Before the Campo changes were made, Lazarus Chairman Mark Cohen gave Channel 9 an exclusive interview. He stressed that Lazarus will remain profitable regardless of who owns the chain.
Our issue is not who owns us. Someone will own Lazarus. Either Lazarus will continue to be a part of Federated Allied, or Lazarus will be acquired by another organization, or Lazarus will own itself. But the underlying issue here is that Lazarus will continue to exist and prosper.
And just yesterday, the May Company said it was interested in buying Lazarus with a possible price tag of up to $900 million.
Soldiers from the 82nd Airborne returned from their tour of duty in Panama earlier. Helicopter Marine One has just arrived at Union Terminal. We're going to go there now and see some live pictures. There's the plane. It hasn't quite landed yet, but it is coming to, rather the helicopter. It is about to land at Union Terminal. This is, I guess you could call this the second leg of the president's visit here to Cincinnati, having left Greater Cincinnati Airport. He is going to get into a motorcade, and that motorcade is going to take him to Taft High School. This will be the first real stop of his 4-hour visit. Actually a short visit, but he's going to get a lot in that amount of time. The helicopter looking for a spot to land, and as we said, he is going to get into his limousine. Now, his, of course, visit to Taft High School will be to stress education. He's going to meet with students at the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, which is a program. Actually, well, there's more than one helicopter, as you can see, so we will find out which one is carrying the president, I imagine, when it lands.
Sometimes it's hard to tell with all the security precautions. Drive to 420 Ezra Charles Drive, where Taft High School is. He'll be doing that in a motorcade. And naturally, the security precautions all over town are tight. And of course, there have been advisories to motorists to watch out for these motorcades as they go throughout town from from Taft High School then to the Hyatt Regency in the 2 o'clock hours, certainly.
Well, you can imagine people are going to hear him coming when that motorcade drives down the street. It's usually accompanied by a lot of noise. Well, while they prepare to land, we're going to go ahead and take care of some other news business. Investigators in Butler County today are trying to find out why...
School. There who'll be addressing... Okay, the long one now, we understand, is President Bush's limo. As we said before, with some of the security arrangements, it's hard to tell exactly where the president is. But we are assured the pictures you are now seeing are President Bush's limousine, which will be going up to Taft High School to see the goings-on there, principally the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, which is a unique partnership of both business and education. He always wanted to be the education president, so this is one of the things he'll be talking about. Then later on, he'll be going to the Hyatt Regency to address the Chamber of Commerce.
You know, Bill, it's going to be interesting because this week, remember, the report card on education came out, and it talks so much about how poorly students are doing in reading and writing, so it'll be interesting whether or not he addresses that. As you can see outside, some snow flurries are falling, so maybe we better go to Todd and see what other kind of weather the president is going to be getting on his visit here.
All of us, for that matter. Todd, are we going to see more of these flakes?
5 at 5:30, President Bush in Cincinnati right now. He's talking with students at Taft High School. Then he moves on to the Cincinnati Chamber of Commerce to deliver a major policy speech. We'll have complete coverage of his visit tonight at 5:30. Plus, we'll tell you about a Navy plane that's crashed into some buildings near Philadelphia.
Partnership that builds brighter futures every day, one kid at a time. And I'd like to recognize a very special person who's brought this concept, this whole CYC, brought it to life. A local heroine, Sister Jean Harrington. And let me offer congratulations to her and best wishes to the man who's taking over, Mr. John Bryant. You know, you may not know this as a part of it because you're so close to everything, but you've got something truly unique going on here. On January 29th, I understand that every television station in greater Cincinnati, all 6 broadcasting companies and 2 cable channels will be launching a 2-hour program called a Futurethon. And it's like a telethon for the schools of Cincinnati, but Futurethon is asking for something even more precious than money. It's asking people to volunteer their talents and their time to be role models, to help Cincinnati students get the future they deserve. And the kids of Cincinnati deserve the very best. If you've ever thought that school was a waste of time, and you ought to think about talking to one of the students in the CYC. They'll tell you better than I can what this program means, and it means scholarships that add up to more than $250,000. It means skills that you can count on. Take a job the day after you graduate. It means classes for college entrance exams that have sent scores soaring up by 25%. A new child care center opening next fall, and training in computers for every student who goes to Taft. Here is an example for the entire nation. But it offers something even more important, because with every friendship you build with a CYC mentor, and with every hour you spend with a tutor, you're getting something more than skills. You're gaining power, purpose, a friendship you can count on, somebody to lift you up when you're a little bit down. And once you have that, you can never be stopped, never denied the potential that's yours and the success that's waiting for you. Let me offer special thanks to those adults who are giving of themselves, who are serving as CYC mentors. Every adult in America can gain so much by developing a special relationship with a young person. When you lift the spirits of the young, you raise their horizons to the stars, and you give them the promise of a future bright with possibility. I hope that the adults here today are just the first of what will soon be thousands like you, helping the young people of your community. One young woman, Loretta Engelman, recently said, "I know what I want out of life, and I know where I'm going." And every student here at Taft is at a point in life when there are a lot of choices to be made, important choices. And if life is the sum of the choices you make, whatever challenges you're facing, you understand that drugs only make them harder to handle, and you already know how drugs destroy lives, and a few of you have seen it happen. Maybe you lost a good friend, or maybe you see or hear about the drug dealers making that big dough. But in the drug trade, there are no benefits, no security, no retirement plan. And sure, people have different ideas about success. Some think it's measured by what's parked in your driveway or hanging in your closet, but real success is something else. An educated man or woman gains so much more. With just a pen or a pencil and a desire to learn, there are no limits to success. And maybe it has to do with the finding of one's own talents, using them to reach your fullest potential. Whatever path you choose, working to make a difference for yourself and those around you. If you stay in school, you'll find that the key to success is right next to you. And if you keep struggling to live up to your own expectations, you'll find the strength to succeed right deep in your heart. So let me congratulate every one of you. I hope by coming here I highlight the magnificent spirit that I see here. Congratulate you for what you're doing. You're proving to yourselves and those around you that you have potential, that you are someone, that you can succeed. And that's why I'm pleased to announce today that the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative is the 40th White House Daily Point of Light. On behalf of the nation, thank you for showing that from now on in America, any definition of a successful life must include serving others. You go to a great school, in a wonderful town, in the greatest nation on the face of the earth, and your dreams are within your reach, and so may every single one of them come true. It's been a wonderful experience here for me today. I feel motivated. I feel I understand a little bit better what one person can do in helping another. It's been well worth it, I'll tell you. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very, very much. Thank you all.
And there you have the President of the United States completing his speech to the students of Taft High School. He's shaking hands there with Tom Browning, obviously the pitcher of the Cincinnati Reds, Sister Jean Harrington, who is the head of the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, for which the President of the United States gave such a big plug to. This is a day, obviously, that the students at Taft High School will always remember, the day the President of the United States came to talk to them. Most of what he said had to do with the issue of success. What success is not measured by how much money you have, or, as he said, the car in your driveway, and there's no easy road to it in terms of drugs or anything like that. Basically, what he was saying is that success is measured by education and also in terms of serving others. And it was interesting, Norma, remember in his campaign, he kept talking about 1,000 points of light.
Right.
And what he said today is that the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, which is this association of students with the business and the rest of the community, that this program is the 40th point of light. Apparently he wants to get 1,000 before his term is up, and Taft High School and the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, congratulations, you are the 40th.
That's right. And he said he was going to be the education president. I think he's getting back to that at this point. He's dealt with drugs. He's dealt with Panama. Now he's getting back, I think, to the education point. Right now, the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative and others at Taft will have reaction to all of this. Let's go to Clyde Gray, who's down at Taft High School right now. Clyde?
All right, Norma, right now you can see some of the National Press Corps coming out, which is a pretty good sign that George Bush is either on his way out or is already out of the building. We haven't had an opportunity yet to see the limousine leave. But as you can imagine, this is one that is definitely going to make the yearbooks here at Taft High School. The president talked about them being a gym full of success stories, showing what is possible to achieve. And as you all pointed out, he talked against drugs, he talked against materialism, and encouraged the development of educational values, which can open the horizons to success. you have to wonder why it was the president chose Taft High School, and I think it all goes back to his desire to be the education president. Remember back last year, the education summit that he had, and he talked about innovative approaches to education. Well, he talked about a lot of the innovations that came out of the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative and that program here at Taft High School, and you've got to believe that that's what brought President Bush to this school today. He mentioned things related to volunteerism. He encouraged those who are volunteering with the kids in the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative. Again, that fits right in with the president who's been saying that we can't always look to the federal government to finance the things that we need to get done in our society, that a lot of it's going to have to come from individual initiative and from volunteer, cooperative volunteer efforts. You heard a lot of that in his speech this afternoon. Jerry, Norma?
Clyde, it's interesting, you know, we've been talking a lot about the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, and maybe here's a good time to say what the goals of this organization are. As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, the goals of the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative are to, one, make sure that every student that graduates is either ready to go to college or ready to get a job, but everybody stays in school. Is that right?
Absolutely. Again, go back to the background. Here in Cincinnati, the dropout rate in the Cincinnati public schools is 40%. Well, that obviously has the potential for crippling a lot of people in this city as time goes on down the line. So the desire of the people with the Youth Collaborative is to work between the educational community and the business community to encourage people to stay in school, to encourage them to go on as far as they possibly can in their education, or at the same time to help them understand that they can find a job if they'll just stay the course.
Okay, thanks a lot, Clyde. Obviously, yes, obviously a big day for these students of
Indeed.
Taft High School.
Very big compliment paid by the President of the United States. You can't get any higher than that.
And from here, the President is going downtown to the Hyatt Hotel, where he will speak to the Chamber of Commerce. His speech there is expected to be a preview of a major policy speech. Of course, our crews are set at the Hyatt to bring you that speech live when it happens at around, what, 2:30 this afternoon?
2:30.
And we hope to see you again then.
And we'll be back. And till then, have a good afternoon.
Okay, we'll let his son represent him, the mayor of Cincinnati. But I'm delighted to be back here, and it is a nonpartisan, non-political gathering. First one I've attended in Hamilton County like that in a long, long time. And it's good to see State Senator Stan Arnoff over here, my friend Bob Taft, the commissioner, the mayor, who is doing a superb job, Charles Lucan. Delighted to be back here in Cincinnati. I will say to you, Joe, that yes, I learned a lot from that spectacular program there at Taft, and I expect we all ought to salute the leadership of Procter & Gamble. My friend John Smale, always out front on what I call 1,000 points of light, trying to help somebody else. But this, for those of you in this community who have not had a chance to see what it is I'm talking about here, this new program of volunteerism interacting with the best in professionalism at a school to help lift these kids up, you ought to go take a look, and you ought to get involved. It is stimulating in every single way. Actually, I was hoping to get out here for the Reds opening day. They tell me I'm 3 months too early. Same problem I ran into on Pearl Harbor Day, you know. But here I am. And we're not here to talk baseball, but you can claim him in Cincinnati, and I'll claim him from Houston, but I'm mighty proud of Joe Morgan making it into the Hall of Fame, I'll tell you. You got Johnny Bench, and now you got Joe. Well, and let me, Colonel, thank you and the Air Force for that magnificent music and being with us here today. You know, it is fitting in the days leading up to the State of the Union address, we should meet again in Cincinnati. The last time I visited was in November of '88, in the final days of the presidential campaign, and earlier, Cincinnati was one of my last stops before the convention in New Orleans. And on the trip before that, we spent a morning out at Procter & Gamble's R&D facility. And they taught me a trick that every president should know. how to put toothpaste back into the tube. A marvelously educational experience. And all in all, I did come here 4 times during the presidential campaign, and I talked of America's future and of future generations, and I talked of certain principles, and I told you that I was ready to make the tough calls and to take the heat, and today I have come back to tell you that I'm ready to make good on that pledge, because up on Capitol Hill, some important business remains unfinished. Promises have gone unfulfilled. And we sent responsible proposals to Congress in a lot of areas, but certainly in 4 of America's most critical areas: capital gains, America's children, clean air, and combating crime. And in some cases, our proposals have been under consideration with Congress for the better part of a year. And these 4 issues are bogged down in the jungles on Capitol Hill. And the clock is running. And America's patience is running out. And I'm not here to assign blame. I'm here to suggest that we need to move forward. America wants it done right. America wants it done responsibly. And America wants it done now. And these 4 initiatives represent only part of the way in which the events of 1989 will affect the coming year. We've seen a lot of exhilarating changes in recent months that offer new hope for world peace. It's an exciting time we're living in. And we like what's happening in Central Europe. But just as it would have been impossible 6 months ago to predict those thunderous changes, it's impossible today to know what will unfold in the next 6 months, let alone the next 6 years. But in this world of change, one thing is certain: America must be ready. And excited as I am about the changes moving toward a more peaceful Europe, Eastern Europe, America must be strong. And a strong America means not only a strong economy, it still must mean a strong defense, a ready and highly effective defense force. And if proof of that were ever needed, we saw it in that superb, beautifully coordinated operation last month. We saw it in the courage of our troops in Panama. I welcome the dynamic changes in Eastern Europe. I strongly support, as I bet we all do, Mr. Gorbachev's perestroika and his commitment to peaceful change and openness, glasnost. But this is not the time. This is not the time that we should naively cut the muscle out of our defense posture. And yet some think that all the answers to this year's problems can be found by spending what is called in Washington a peace dividend. It's like the next of kin who spent the inheritance before the will is read. And unfortunately, what is being packaged as a dividend is not money in the bank. It is more like a possible future inheritance, a legacy that will enable us to pass on a better world to our children. And like an inheritance, it's a special gift, a legacy not only of prosperity but also security, earned by the hard work and sacrifice of those who came before. And of course, whenever a potential inheritance looms, there are those eager to rush out and squander it, to buy new things, to spend, and spending funds they don't yet have. And then the bills start coming, and the inheritance may not. And what was promised as a bonus becomes a burden. In Washington, that burden comes in the form of new spending program. That's not going to happen because most Americans know we not only must maintain a strong defense, but still must reduce the deficit. And reducing the deficit isn't just a good idea, a sound idea, an idea of sound fiscal policy. It's what the American people want, and, as our two congressmen here today know, it's the law. It's required under the Graham-Rudman-Hollings law. The way to reduce the deficit is to restrain the spending growth and continue the economic growth. And it's not the time, as some like to say, to go on out and raise the taxes on the working man and woman in this country. The new budget must meet Graham-Rudman requirements. It must reduce barriers to economic growth. It must keep interest rates low, and I'm not satisfied yet. I'm encouraged, but I'm not satisfied at all. I want to see them lower. And I say all this because the best poverty program, the best anti-poverty program, if you will, is a good job. And the best jobs program is a sound, strong central economy. A sound economy. A sound economy is a competitive economy. And to keep America competitive, to fuel our continuing growth, in some areas boom, we also need an infusion of new venture capital. And that's why we need a majority in both houses of Congress, what they've already voted for, and I'm talking about a tax cut on capital gains. As the world turns to freer markets, and you're seeing this happen, some solidifying their commitment to freer markets, countries that never had the benefit of free markets beginning to move, taking early steps toward free markets. But as the world moves in this direction, this is no time to become wishy-washy about where America stands. The jury is no longer out. Markets work. Government controls do not work. And since the debate is all but ended on this issue, perhaps our most die-hard ideologues can now turn their attention to the real question that divides America. Is it Texas or Cincinnati that produces the world's best chili? Of course, this is a question to be decided by the market. And that's what I'm trying to tell you all here today. The economic challenge of the 90s is to make markets work better. And one of the best ways that government can do that is to do what people around the world are asking their governments to do. Get out of the way. Less regulation. Fewer mandated programs from Washington that tie the hands of our health care providers, our educators, and so many others as well. You see, our ideas work here at home. We're in the midst of the longest peacetime expansion in the history of the United States, an 86-month expansion that has created an astonishing 20 million new jobs since 1982. And that's due to the genius of places like Cincinnati and the solid American values that have flourished here and inspired the world from Central Europe to Central America. The whole world is watching, and the whole world is ready. The headlines tell of other nations buying America, and that's good. That's good news, not bad news. We've been urging our own people to buy America for years, to invest in the greatest job-creating machine of the 20th century. And it's no surprise then that the world investors are following suit. The results are in. America is the choice. And we don't have to look elsewhere to know what works. If you want to follow the smart money advice of the 1990s, Go to where the Japanese and the Europeans are going. Look at the United States of America. Look at what the rest of the world calls the American miracle. You've seen it happen. You've made it happen. You've been a part of it happening right here in Cincinnati, USA, the blue chip city, where 150,000 more people are at work than were working 6 years ago. 150,000 more. And Cincinnati produced its miracle the old-fashioned way, the American way. And it's an old tradition here. When he first opened his slaughterhouse in 1810, Richard Fosdick was warned that meat couldn't be cured in Cincinnati's climate. But he didn't know that it couldn't be done. And he continued his experiments until he discovered the rock salt process for curing meat and made this city the principal hog market of the world. And renewing our emphasis on innovation is one of the ways modern Cincinnati has prospered. You've also built a diverse economic base, stripped away corporate fat, renewed our emphasis on quality. Fortune says Cincinnati makes some of the best jet engines in the entire world. And ultimately, these are the kind of efforts that will determine how America fares in the competitive, free trade world of the 90s. The way of the future is free people, and the way of the future, in my view, is and must be free trade. And free people and free trade is what America is all about. Of course, it's not enough that we say free, that trade simply be free. It is also got to be fair. And I am not complacent. I am not satisfied with where things stand. We must do better in removing barriers to Americans' goods and services, whether those barriers be in Japan, in Western Europe, or anywhere else in the world. And a global game is afoot, a game in which a Cincinnati businessman can now fly nonstop to London and Frankfurt any day of the week. And if the rules are fair and the same for everybody, we can play this game. It's called free enterprise. And America is the free enterprise capital of the world. Winning in the competitive 90s will take more than investing in products. We must also invest in people. And that was what was so moving about my experience today here at lunch. We must invest in people. And that means offering every American child an education second to none. Our Education Excellence Act remains a priority of my administration, sent to Congress almost 9 months ago. And it calls for choice, flexibility, and accountability. And the time for study is past, and the time for action is now. You in Cincinnati have acted, working to educate, train our people for the 21st century. 3 years ago, business, educational, and community leaders here came together to take on a mighty task: reduce the numbers of students at risk. That staggering 40% dropout rate in Cincinnati's public schools. And the result was what I saw today, that Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, an intensive people-to-people mentoring program that many of you support. And it's already seen some fantastic early success. It has America talking. Your governor visited one of the participating classrooms at McKinley Preschool before coming out to the Education Summit that I hosted there in Charlottesville, Virginia last fall. And earlier today, as I said, I had this opportunity to see the programs, the tremendous programs at Taft High School firsthand. I guess the most moving part of it for me today was the mentoring part. The involvement of one Cincinnatian in the life of another. An older man, an older woman, taking under his or her arm a kid, lifting him up, helping him when they're hurt. Beautiful experience. There are other matters that require urgent attention when Congress gets back later this month. Our Clean Air Act proposals recognize that in an emerging global economy, environmental destruction knows no borders, and that a healthy economy goes hand in hand with a healthy environment. And a kinder, gentler environment also means a society where every man, woman, and child can live and prosper in an environment free from fear. And that then means freedom from crime, and especially the increasingly violent crime that has been spawned by this plague of drug abuse, drug trafficking. Our anti-crime package as well, it's time for the Congress to act on it. And there's much to be done in the months ahead, but as the new year begins, Americans should also pause to take some pride in what we've all accomplished together. Let me suggest two areas. At home, more than anything else, if you had to define it, a kinder and gentler nation is one in which everyone who wants a job has a job. And today, America has the lowest unemployment rate since 1973. And Ohio has reached its highest employment level in history. Abroad, for more than 40 years, 3 generations have stood steadfast in an often hostile and tumultuous world. Firm in our belief in America's destiny as leader of the free world, our spirit did not falter. Our troops did not flinch. And today, after the watershed events of 1989, the free world that we're leading is growing bigger all the time. And in the past months, we saw democracy restored to the brave people of Panama. We want to help them, enhance it, and strengthen it. We saw the powerful brought before the bar of justice, and we took pride in the skill and the courage and, yes, the sacrifice of American soldiers. The Panamanian operation was conducted by highly trained troops, the best, the finest, the best trained troops in the world. But it is not simply training, it's patriotism and it's dedication. I went to a couple of hospitals in San Antonio, Barbara and I did, and talked to some of our wounded. And I'll never, ever forget their spirit. One kid lying there severely wounded said, my only regret, he said, is that I'm here, not down there with the others. Pride in America, in my view, has never been higher. And somehow it is more than coincidence. In the same month, we hear that the bald eagle, the American eagle, may soon come off the endangered species list. How about that? No, you know, in case you don't understand it, I love my job. And we've got a lot to do, but as you see the changes in Eastern Europe, see Mr. Gorbachev struggling against what some would say just terribly difficult odds, things are coming our way. They're moving toward freedom. They're moving toward democracy. And I am proud to be at the helm. Thank you all. God bless you. And God bless Cincinnati. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you very, very much.
And there you have the President of the United States to the song he has heard and probably every day of his life for this past year. This is the first year of his presidency. Speaking to the Chamber of Commerce, the highlights of the speech, I suspect, are when he started out first with what he called the 4 areas of unfulfilled promises by Congress that he wants to see action on. I suspect we're going to hear some of this in his State of the Union address later on this month. He talked of the area of needs, in the area of capital gains, dealing with America's children, doing something about cleaning up our air, and of course in combating crime. But I suspect he spent most of the time talking about the changes and how excited he is about the changes that are coming off in Eastern Europe. But he said, as excited as we are that the world seems to be changing and in a sense in terms of communism becoming friendlier, he said that's no time to give up on a strong defense, and that means not only keeping a strong military defense but also a strong economy. And what he said was he wants to reduce the deficit, and I suspect that also means no new taxes.
That probably does. And what he also was talking about was things on Capitol Hill. He said things are getting bogged down on Capitol Hill. Kind of a prod there to get things moving again on Capitol Hill.
And he kept thinking, according to his political philosophy, that Cincinnati is the place which represents that, the involvement of the private sector in helping out our economy. Perhaps that's the reason he chose Cincinnati to make his speech, because we so identify, at least in our local economy, with the philosophy of George Bush. The president is now, as you've seen, left the Hyatt Hotel, or at least the room in which he was giving the speech.
Along with some people outside who were there greeting him, and they're not greeting him with open arms. There's a lot of protesting going on. Right now, let's check with News 5's Marty Peratt, who is with protesters outside the Hyatt. Marty, what are they protesting?
Well, we've had about 65 people out here protesting this afternoon, and frankly, they were not able to hear the president's speech. Most of them know that he was talking mostly about education, but they're here to protest other things today, mostly start with foreign policy, Central America. They don't think that George Bush is doing a very good job. They think they're probably putting too much emphasis on troops in Central America and impact in Central America, and not enough on things like the homeless. The people have been protesting. We might take a look right across the corner from here. You still see a few people with signs over there today. And these are a few of the people that are still hanging on. Actually, they tried to make a lot of noise as President Bush was going by, and they definitely, he didn't get to see much of it, but they still person has been arrested.
All right, we apologize for losing the signal there with Marty, but as he said, it is a small group of protesters. There wasn't a great uproar going on out there at all.
Right. I suspect it is part of any president's life that wherever you travel, there are going to be people that see this as an opportunity to express their particular point of view, and in this case, it's different than that of the president's, and so they show up wherever he speaks.
Well, President Bush is going to be leaving the Hyatt shortly. He'll be going back out to the airport. He's going to fly again from Union Terminal by helicopter out to the airport, where he'll get on Air Force One and leave. Kind of a whirlwind trip here.
Yes, but he's, I think we got a preview of what we're going to see in the State of the Union address, and he chose Cincinnati to give that preview, and obviously the people here are pretty excited about that. Of course, we'll follow him throughout the afternoon, and we'll have a complete wrap-up of the president's visit to Cincinnati on News 5 at 5:30. We hope to see you then.
High school horrors, high school heroes has been our focus.
I am a teacher in HISD and a product of HISD. I graduated from HISD schools. There's a lot good going on. There's a lot bad going on. I'm proud of Austin students for walking out, but I'm upset with the parents. The parents have more pull and more push than anybody else. As teachers, our hands are tied. We cannot strike for salaries, so how can we strike for the children to get books? Another thing is that...
Wait. I want Dr. Stevens to comment on parental responsibility.
Well, certainly we've got to have the parents involved as much as possible. I think the key thing in this whole situation with Houston, as well as other school districts around the country, is we have some problems that have created an awareness, and I think as educators we have to be aware of who our client is and respond to that client. And I think this is a beginning, and we're starting to see some of the positive results that are coming from corporate America.
It's wonderful that the $1 million grant is going to Austin High School. It's very much needed. I teach kindergarten. I teach 5-year-old children, and I would not go to any other grade because it's very frustrating to be in 3rd grade or 5th grade teacher, and a child comes to you and cannot read. That's very frustrating. An at-risk child is a child who starts off at school at 5 years old. Don't wait till the child gets in the 9th and 10th grade to teach him how to read. He starts in kindergarten.
Good point.
This is a problem that came about because of many years of neglect, and I question whether it's a political problem. What we see now happening in public schools is we have districts now, but we have separate but equal again. We have separate but equal. The minority districts don't get what they should get, what the other side of town is getting. We want equity.
I'm a teacher from out of state, and I've seen several other districts, and by far this is one of the worst I've seen. But a lot of the teachers have wonderful ideas and they present them, but the administration won't use them. And so we have to start pushing and letting the teachers get more control over educating.
Hi, I'm a 1980 graduate of Austin High School and 1984 graduate of U of H. So I do know that Houston Independent School District can succeed. However, I do want to commend the students because I think their walkout did three things. It created an awareness among the community, the Hispanic community. It awakened the parents to pay more attention. It awakened HISD definitely that they have some problems. But lastly and most importantly, it awakened the students that they have to demand what they deserve, and I think they did that.
Wouldn't it be nice if what happened at Austin was the beginning of a renaissance? You know, like a pebble dropping in the water and the ripples going out that really had reverberations throughout this nation, beginning the rebuilding of our public education system, something we need so desperately. Be right back. Last night, let me have my jacket here. Would you help me on with it, Ramon? Last night we had a fundraiser for the Austin High School Athletic Department and the band, and they only had 3 days to organize it, but I'm very proud to say...
You're an honorary student of Stephen F. Austin High School.
All right, that's all right. I hope I do better there than I did at my own high school. The contribution Ben Reyes got, but they did raise a couple of thousand. I adopted a class in New York, a class of junior high school students in the 7th grade. They're now in the 8th grade. We're going to pay their college tuition if they can make it through. Hopefully that'll encourage them to stick around. They did a public service announcement, an anti-drug public service announcement. I'm proud of it. As we go and say goodbye, I want you to see it. Please take a look at this. Bye, everybody. Thanks for being here.
But not by abusing the drugs, it's high. All the low, just to fit in with the flow of the crowd. Break away from it all, and yo, be proud. See what I see is reality. When I look at my peers, it merely brings me to tears to see them waste their careers with the drugs out here. So I stop and stare, compare the kids in a park to the ones after dark. To see you need someone to lean on like my man Joe Clark.
Let's end the frustration.
Addicted to crack.
Let's end the frustration.
You gotta fight back.
Let's end the frustration.
Addicted to cocaine.
Let's end the frustration.
Get ahead and game. As an architect, can you project the negative from positive?
Make sure that you learn again.
In your dialect going retrospect.
Different choices and alternatives.
Look around the park, what you find is clearly true.
There's many different choices on what you can do.
Sport of any sort, basketball and tennis.
It's a positive path on the road to winning this.
Drug war, we must endure
what our young world has in store.
Scientist of the future, better yet, a genius.
Supplying and consuming with knowledge and convenience.
The next Bo Jackson with practice can happen.
Self-esteem is the key to the luxury of relaxing.
I know it's hard, but...
Hello.
With Rob Braun and Deborah Silverstein. Weather with meteorologist Tim Hedrick. And sports with Ken Anderson.
It's asking people to volunteer their talents and their time to be role models, to help Cincinnati students get the future they deserve. And the kids of Cincinnati deserve the very best.
He says he wants to be known as the education president, and it is an outstanding example of education in the tri-state that brought him to our town this afternoon. Good evening, everyone. The tri-state is still catching its breath tonight following a whirlwind visit by President George Bush.
The chief executive landed at Greater Cincinnati International just before noon today. From there, it was on to Taft High School, where the president saw firsthand how a community-wide collaboration helps students succeed. Then to the Hyatt Regency for a rousing speech to the Chamber of Commerce. We have several reports on the President's Day, beginning with Eyewitness 12's Deborah Dixon at Taft High School.
The President of the United States said what's happening in Cincinnati and at Taft High School is an example for the nation. Cincinnati's Youth Collaborative, businessmen who raise money for education, the mentor program that teams volunteers with struggling students.
If you stay in school, you'll find that the key to success is right next to you. And if you keep struggling to live up to your own expectations, you'll find the strength to succeed right deep in your heart.
And this is a school that could use some positive attention and motivation. It has a 25% dropout rate.
It was be all you can be. It was great. Be all you can be. Be all you can be.
It was a positive message. And, you know, I think everybody got it through.
It shows the people that want to put down Taft that really can accomplish things.
For some young people who live in the poverty and hopelessness of the West End, even a visit from the president couldn't get them to school. Attendance at Taft was down a little today. For some Taft teens, getting out early was the highlight of the day.
They would rather have Michael Jordan than George Bush.
But for most of the students, a presidential visit was a big deal. It's a day Loretta Engelman will remember. She was surprised when the president quoted her in his school speech.
When he mentioned my name, I was like, oh, man, he's talking about me.
One young woman, Loretta Engelman, recently said, "I know what I want out of life, and I know where I'm going."
I didn't know he was going to talk about me. But when he said my name, well, I was too happy and excited. Like, oh, he said my name, yeah.
Deborah Dixon, Eyewitness 12, Taft High School.
And before he even arrived at Taft High School, the president got a chance to meet some of the Tri-State's finest students at the Greater Cincinnati International Airport. A group of 5th and 6th grade chemistry contest winners were on hand to greet Mr. Bush as he stepped off Air Force One just before noon. And despite the chilly temperatures out on the runway, the kids all say meeting the president was indeed quite a thrill.
Not very many people get to meet him every day, and I think that was special to me and something I won't forget.
What are your classmates going to do?
Well, they've been asking me to get his autograph, but I didn't get a chance to get it.
The American Chemical Society sponsored the contest to select today's Young Presidential Welcoming Committee.
Well, along with his trip to Taft High School, the president also traveled downtown for a speech to the Greater Cincinnati Chamber of Commerce.
Eyewitness 12's Terry Jessup is at the Hyatt where the president spoke, and he joins us now live with more. Terry?
Thank you, Deborah. Earlier this afternoon, the president was here at the Hyatt Regency Ballroom. This room seats about 1,600 people, but there are 4,000 Chamber of Commerce members, and they are the people who invited the president here for the speech. So those who got to hear it actually had to win a lottery just to get a reserved seat. Now, the president got here, surprisingly, about 15 minutes ahead of schedule. And what he found, as most sitting presidents do at a scheduled speech, was a very enthusiastic reception.
The president said he was happy to be back. He visited here 4 times during the '88 campaign and offered that it was easy to lose track of time.
I was hoping to get out here for the Reds opening day. They tell me I'm 3 months too early. Same problem I ran into on Pearl Harbor Day, you know, but here I am.
Turning serious, the president then challenged Capitol Hill to move ahead on what he called the most important unfinished business.
We sent responsible proposals to Congress in a lot of areas, but certainly in 4 of America's most critical areas: capital gains, America's children, clean air, and combating crime. And in some cases, our proposals have been under consideration with Congress for the better part of a year. And these 4 issues are bogged down in the jungles on Capitol Hill.
The speech was scattershot, wide-ranging. The president praising the changes in Eastern Europe, but then warning the U.S. should not, in his words, cut the muscle out of our defense posture. How then will government reduce the budget deficit?
The way to reduce the deficit is to restrain the spending growth and continue the economic growth. And it's not the time, as some like to say, to go on out and raise the taxes on the working man and woman in this country.
Bush added it's clear now it is a free market that works and not government controls. And once again, he played to the home crowd to make that point.
Is it Texas or Cincinnati that produces the world's best chili? Of course, this is a question to be decided by the market.
Now, the White House advance team had billed President Bush's speech here today as a major policy statement, and I don't think you're going to find many people who were here or who heard it on television to agree with that, but most people we did talk to here afterwards said that they certainly enjoyed it, and like a lot of speeches, it was not so much what he said as how he said it. He hit the right buttons, and he talked about Cincinnati a great deal. We'll have more on the reaction to the Bush speech a little later in the news hour. This is Terry Jessup reporting live.
Thank you, Terry. He certainly did push all the right Cincinnati buttons.
That he did. And as Terry just mentioned, the president's speech did touch on several issues now facing both the administration and Congress.
And while Mr. Bush is calling for action on those issues, his visions of action could be a far cry from the realities of Washington politics. Joining us now to discuss the president's speech is University of Cincinnati political analyst Al Tuchfarber, who watched the speech this afternoon. Mr. Tuchfarber, thanks for being with us.
Glad to be here, Rob.
Did you see anything or hear anything in the speech that you found new or unusual?
No, there really was nothing new in the speech. It was the standard speech that he's been giving around the country lately. There really was nothing new, no major new initiatives, and it was a disappointment in that regard because we had expected to hear something new today.
No major policy issues, as his administration had led us to believe.
No, we had expected to hear about major new issues, but there was nothing new in the speech today.
Talked about taxes and said that he was going to hold the line with respect to taxes. Congress, the Democrats in Congress, have said that that probably will not be the case. How do you see the public viewing the taxes and the issue on that this year?
The public does not want taxes raised. However, they expect that they will be raised. And I think that what will actually happen is that we will get some small tax increases, perhaps disguised as user fees or something like that.
You do a lot with public opinion. We're talking, or rather the president today talked about the military spending. Do you feel the public now believes the military should be withdrawn given what's going on in Eastern Europe?
I think that they do. I think that they believe that the U.S. troops in Western Europe should be withdrawn, but slowly, because they don't believe that the Cold War is completely over yet, and that we have to phase out of this situation rather than doing anything precipitous.
What about Cincinnati? Why Cincinnati? Why did the president come here?
It's strictly politics. There's the youth collaborative here. There's a lot of good Republican connections here. He could help some local politicians. He could also help himself. He's here for politics.
Mr. Tuchfarber, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Many had said that this afternoon's speech in Cincinnati could be a prelude to the president's State of the Union address in Washington later on this month. If that's the case, the president may have learned a thing or two downtown today. Nick Clooney explains in his commentary.
There is nothing that irritates you quite as much as some guy coming on television and trying to tell you about a speech you just saw, is there? Every time I have a talk with you anywhere in the tri-state, right at the top of your list is that of your pet peeves. Well, the President of the United States was in town to make a speech right over there, and many of you watched it, and the rest of you saw large chunks of it on the news just a couple of moments ago. He spoke English, so you can figure out what he said and what he meant. Instead, I would like to talk to you about us, our reaction to what the President said to the Chamber of Commerce meeting. I was in that crowd today, and I was struck by a couple of things. First, that was George Bush's crowd, if there ever was one. Successful professionals from the tri-state. They welcomed the president with real warmth, and he responded in kind. But if the speech was supposed to be, as some said, a straw in the wind for his State of the Union address coming up soon, he might have learned something here in Cincinnati. He was interrupted by applause 5 times. Once on reducing the budget, once on lowering the interest rates, once on cutting capital gains tax. Well, those are automatics, of course, for a Chamber of Commerce crowd. He got big applause when he ad-libbed a line about loving his job, and one more when he compared Texas and Cincinnati chili. However, 3 times he mentioned the Panama incursion. 3 times there were minute pauses where applause would have been appropriate, including an indirect mention of Noriega, but 3 times the Cincinnati audience remained silent. Not in any way hostile, but silent. That might have been a surprise, and it could be a useful point for the president to ponder as he sets his priorities for the State of the Union message coming up. I'm Nick Clooney.
Braun and Deborah Silverstein. Weather with meteorologist Tim Hedrick. And sports with Ken Anderson.
The eyes of the country are focused on Cincinnati as President Bush brings his 1,000 points of light to our city. It's 6 o'clock in the Tri-State. Welcome back to the News Hour. The last time George Bush stepped foot in the Queen City was November 1988 during his election campaign. He promised two major things then: educational reform and an improved economy.
Today he came to check on what he calls two success stories. First, a unique program at Cincinnati's Taft High School where community leaders work with young people to help them on to higher education. Second came a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce to talk about what Bush calls a city that works. We have several reports tonight in our team coverage of the president's visit, beginning with Eyewitness 12's Terry Jessup.
The Chamber of Commerce invited the president here. In the packed ballroom of 1,600 chamber members won their seats by lottery. The president warmed them up with an early reference to some household names here.
You can claim him in Cincinnati, and I'll claim him from Houston, but I'm mighty proud of Joe Morgan making it into the Hall of Fame, I'll tell you. You got Johnny Bench, and now you got Joe.
The president then told the crowd he's ready to make good in 4 areas he says Congress has left unfulfilled.
We sent responsible proposals to Congress in a lot of areas, but certainly in 4 of America's most critical areas: capital gains, America's children, clean air, and combating crime. And in some cases, our proposals have been under consideration with Congress for the better part of a year. And these 4 issues are bogged down in the jungles on Capitol Hill.
Much like President Reagan did when he visited, Bush embraced Cincinnati as an example of successful Republican policies, claiming there are 150,000 more people working here than there were just 6 years ago.
Renewing our emphasis on innovation is one of the ways modern Cincinnati has prospered. You've also built a diverse economic base, stripped away corporate fat, renewed our emphasis on quality. Fortune says Cincinnati makes some of the best jet engines in the entire world.
The president also flattered the home folks by mentioning the education efforts here.
Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, an intensive people-to-people mentoring program that many of you support. And it's already seen some fantastic early success. It has America talking.
Mr. Bush then headed back to Washington immediately following his speech, which many described as inspiring, but something less than the major policy statement the White House advance team had promised. Terry Jessup, Eyewitness 12 News, downtown.
Overall, the people who saw the speech said the president gave a very upbeat speech in which he had very good things to say about Cincinnati.
As you might expect, not everyone welcomed Bush's stop here in the Tri-State with open arms. Protesters braved the bitter cold to march outside the Hyatt Hotel, while Bush gave a speech inside. The demonstrators represented a number of interest groups from Central America to the Fernald processing plant near Ross, Ohio. Fernald residents came out to show the president their anger with the government's slow cleanup of the plant and the 3-month delay in getting any money to do it.
And we've waited, and we're tired of waiting. And I think education is very important, and I'm glad he's here in Cincinnati. But the cleaning up this mess that we have is very important to the people who literally have to live with it.
The protesters stress they feel the president's visit is positive for the Queen City, but don't want it to overshadow other important issues here. When George Bush ran for president in 1988, he billed himself as the education president. Bush called education the glue that holds this country together. Today, in his visit to our city, the president got a first-hand look at an educational program that he says works. Eyewitness 12's Deborah Dixon was there.
Military helicopters buzzed rooftops near Taft High School looking for snipers. Pickets were kept behind bike racks, and all traffic stopped as the presidential motorcade sped from Union Terminal to a canopy-covered school entrance.
Right there. They blocked it. They pulled in.
Taft High School may seem an unlikely presidential stop. The dropout rate is 25%. Many students live in high-crime housing projects. But it's programs of hope the president highlighted today. Cincinnati's Youth Collaborative, businessmen who raise money for education, and Taft's Mentor program that teams struggling students with volunteers. These got presidential attention this afternoon. Students and their mentors who got to meet with George Bush said they were impressed with his genuine concern for education.
He spoke from the heart. He really did care about what this program stood for.
I liked his accessibility. I liked the fact that he was conversational. It was very informal. He laughed with us. He tried to remember our names.
He shook my hand about twice, 2 times, 3 times, pat me on the back.
Getting positive national attention is not expected to change things at Taft High School overnight, but it may be a starting point, or as the president would say, a point of light.
You go to a great school in a wonderful town in the greatest nation on the face of the earth, and your dreams are within your reach, and so may every single one of them come true.
Deborah Dixon, Eyewitness 12 News.
President Bush said Cincinnati's Youth Collaborative should serve as an example to the nation of how a community can build futures, one kid at a time.
Still ahead tonight, there has been a major shakeup at the Campo Corporation.
We'll take a look at how that will affect you the next time you shop at Lazarus. We'll be right back.
Is now out. Robert Campo has surrendered control of all U.S. retail holdings, including Cincinnati-based Lazarus stores. Campo bought Lazarus's parent company, Federated, in 1988. His buyout of that company and Allied department stores was the largest retail takeover in history. Campo used junk bonds, which are high-yield, high-risk securities, to buy Allied and Federated. Today, he is deep in debt, $7.5 billion in debt. Campo's creditors, Citibank, and many others have been circling the company, threatening to call in various loans.
We're living with the ramifications of that now as we go into the 90s and have to manage that debt that was taken on in the excesses of the 80s.
For Lazarus employees and shoppers, corporate turbulence carries a special irony, even though the very future of the chain is
Ladies and gentlemen, live from Cincinnati, Sister Jean Patrice Harrington and Mr. Reggie Williams.
Good evening. Tonight we are part of an unprecedented event. All local television stations and cable systems in the Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky area have joined with the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative in our local schools in an effort to address the distressing school dropout rate that currently exists in our community. The school dropout problem is not someone else's problem, it is our problem. And you have it in your power to do something about it tonight. This is a telethon, but we're not going to ask you for money. We need something far more precious. We need your time. Tonight for 2 hours, station representatives will welcome national celebrities who have come to Cincinnati to join us in our efforts. We'll also welcome local celebrities and concerned citizens who will help us tell you how the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative is working to solve the dropout problem and how we can help your children get the education they need and deserve. Sister Jean?
Thank you, Reggie. I'm delighted to have an opportunity to ask you to become actively involved with the vision, the mission, and the work of the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative. The Cincinnati Youth Collaborative brings together business people, educators, government officials, community service leaders, and other individuals like yourselves who are willing to work on behalf of Cincinnati's young people. The vision of the collaborative is that every young person will graduate from high school with the training, knowledge, work habits, and motivation needed to realize his or her full potential, whether he or she is going on to college or seeking a job having upward mobility. The goals of the collaborative are to reduce the number of dropouts, increase the number of pupils involved in early childhood education, improve the overall academic performance of all children, and increase the number of students attending college. These goals can be achieved. Only, however, if everyone in the community is sensitized to the needs of young people and responds in the way that generous Cincinnatians always do. We have an opportunity to show you various ways in which you can become actively involved. The only requirements: you give your time, and you are a loving, generous person who really cares about kids. During his recent visit to Cincinnati, President Bush, in giving recognition to the collaborative, called attention to Futurethon and noted that it provided a tremendous opportunity for greater Cincinnatians to respond once more. He sincerely believes that volunteers do make a difference.
Congratulate you for what you're doing. You're proving to yourselves and those around you that you have potential, that you are someone, that you can succeed. And that's why I'm pleased to announce today that the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative is the 40th White House Daily Point of Light. On behalf of the nation, thank you for showing that from now on in America, any definition of a successful life must include serving others. You go to a great school, in a wonderful town, in the greatest nation on the face of the earth, and your dreams are within your reach, and so may every single one of them come true. It's been a wonderful experience here for me today. I feel motivated. I feel I understand a little bit better what one person can do in helping another. It's been well worth it, I'll tell you. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very, very much. Thank you all.
And so, listen to our story, start those telephones ringing immediately, and count yourself among those who join with us in being united for youth.
I used to be a smart young man, you know, so I got with this one guy. And he got us both kicked out. And, you know, I regretted that. You know, I have a family, live happy. You drop out of school, you're gonna be nothing. You know, try to stay in, at least. If you can't stay in, you know, talk to your parents or, you know, someone's older than you, someone that's been through school and college. And somebody, you know, somebody that, talk to a counselor. You know, go to your counselor and talk to him. You know, I'm regretting that I did drop out of school. I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be important. I'm telling you, you ain't gonna find nothing out here without a diploma or a degree. You'll be washing dishes or sweeping floors or taking out garbage for the rest of your life, you know. I don't want to go through that.
You know, we had fun, and then we just start skipping every day. And then start, you know, hey, there's some stuff we can do, like get high or something like that, and, you know, we go ahead and do it. Just about anything we wanted to when we skip class. Just one day, my friend that I hung around with the most turned 16, and she quit school. So, you know, she got to quit school, and I was like, well, I have to go to school by myself. I don't have anybody. I don't have teachers. I don't have counselors, nothing. So I picked getting married because you can get out of it easier. You know, I was going to get married in August anyway, when I turned 16. Just one day I said, I'm tired of it. I'm sick. You know, I don't want to go to school. I don't need teachers. I don't need nothing. So I got married. I wanted to do a lot more things, but I can't now. Now that I quit school, it's too hard to go back. I've thought about, you know, what happens if my kid comes home and says, Mom, what's 25 divided by 1,000? I think about that a lot, you know, because if they come home and they ask me that, I'm not going to know. Then they don't have nobody to look up to no more, because your kids will stop looking up to you after that. They say, well, we don't have no help at home. Why should we do homework? Then homework quits, and then the schoolwork quits, and then the skipping starts, and the cutting whole school starts, and then you drop out.
Their life is a street. And I read a bulletin board a lot. I like it because it says a life on the street is a dead end, something like that. And for my little brothers and sisters, you know, and friends, it's hard on the streets. You don't know which way to turn, who to trust, or what to do, nothing. So I would tell them, stay in the school, try. The least you can do is try. I didn't. You can try.
High school graduation. Nothing better symbolizes the first step to living an independent, rewarding life. The world is open to each of these graduates. But this picture isn't reality. 40% of this class never made it to this ceremony. During their school careers, 40% of these students dropped out and lost their chance to be whatever they wanted, lost their dream for the future. This is happening in Cincinnati, just as it is in most major cities in our nation. Each class of dropouts nationally represents more than $200 billion in lost lifetime earnings. The social costs are harder to quantify, but just as real. Once students drop out of school, the odds are against their ever becoming contributing members of the community. The challenge facing our community is to stop this trend now. A dedicated group of Cincinnatians has begun to take the steps necessary to help each of our children develop the confidence, skills, expectations, and hope of achieving his or her highest potential. This group includes representatives from business, education, government, neighborhoods, religious and social service organizations. The group adopted the name Cincinnati Youth Collaborative and began calling on others to join with them in being united for youth.
For years, schools have worked in isolation in attempting to serve the needs of young people, yet the resources for attending to those needs were not within the purview of the school districts. Subsequently, the establishment of an organization like the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative provides a new era of cooperation and coordination of all of those people who are interested in the future of the community, who are interested in young people, in combining efforts, resources, and energies to aid young people to develop productive, fulfilling lives and become the future generation that we want them to be.
The Cincinnati Youth Collaborative is a community effort to stop the school dropout problem and increase test scores in the Cincinnati public school system. We think that every student, whether he or she be in the Cincinnati School District or the surrounding districts, is entitled to full educational development.
We realize that it is only going to be possible for us to achieve the vision that we have for our youth in the community if thousands and thousands of us from every part of the community come together in support of our youth. It's just essential that we give of ourselves in whatever way that we can and be united for youth.
The Cincinnati Youth Collaborative is underway. Today, in the Cincinnati school system, there are already programs in place. 2 preschool programs are in their second year of operation at Taft and McKinley schools. Mentors and tutors are working with individual students to provide that extra guidance and support that could make the difference in a child staying in school. Cincinnati businesses are being called on to provide jobs for qualified graduates. College information centers have been established to assist students and their parents in completing application forms for college and financial aid and in career counseling. A new scholarship fund has been established to provide the remaining dollars needed to help pay college expenses when other financial aid resources fall short. The Cincinnati Youth Collaborative is working to bring all of Cincinnati's youth-serving organizations together to reach a common goal of helping our children be all they can be. But it's just the beginning. To be successful, we need your help. It's an enormous task, and it will take the involvement, support, and commitment of thousands of volunteers from all segments of our community. There are unlimited opportunities to help. We need almost as many volunteers as there are individual students. There's no better investment for the future than an investment in our youth.